Are you going to be stationed in Coronado and you have no idea where to live or where even to look at when it comes to coming to San Diego and being stationed in Coronado? Well, in this video, I'm going to cover every single thing that you not only need to know when it comes to being stationed before you even get here, but also the exact areas that you need to look at that could potentially either make or break your time being stationed here in Coronado. And don't forget to stay to halfway through the video because I'm going to pull up a map of San Diego around Coronado and I'm going to go through each individual area to give you an idea of where you should live when moving to Coronado. Let's get into it. What's up, everyone? My name is Cameron Hodge, a veteran here in San Diego that loves to give you information about PCSing and living in San Diego, California. Love it, dropping videos for you every single week. But also, more importantly, I'm a real estate agent here in San Diego, and as a fellow veteran, I want to help you when it comes to choosing your real estate decisions in San Diego and when you're PCSing or leaving San Diego. Absolutely love it. So this number popping up below is how you can get a hold of me. You can call me, text me, email me, whatever you need to do. I have your back when PCSing to San Diego, California. All right, where do you live when you're getting stationed in Coronado? So, little story on me. When I came to San Diego originally, I was stationed in MCAS Miramar, which is about a little bit north of the center of San Diego. And I spent a lot of time in the air wing there in the Marine Corps, but I am very familiar with Coronado, having to go there multiple times when it came to certain things that we needed for our job. So Coronado, obviously, if you don't know, it's on an island in San Diego. Coronado is one of those communities where even when I first came here to San Diego, I always heard how people love it. When they live there and manage to get on the island, they never seem to leave because it's like its own little ecosystem, aside from the military base and things like that. Look, if the base-wise, yeah, it has its military base. But when it comes to living on Coronado, there's a lot going on the island, and people really love the community because it kind of feels like its own tight-knit community. Also, the cool thing about living in Coronado is during like the 4th of July and stuff like that, you already have you have your own base access when it comes to looking at the fireworks display in San Diego Bay. So that's always awesome. I will tell you though, obviously it really depends, depending on what rank you're coming in and what your cost of living you're shooting to achieve. The average price even for Coronado is like you're at least spending like over $1.5 million to buy any piece of real estate on Coronado. Currently, at the time of recording this video, it's not a cheap place. And because it's so small and such a tight-knit community, people really do want it. And if you don't have that kind of budget, if you're not like a high-level officer, then hey, maybe that's not the location for you. Because Coronado is an expensive place. People love it. It's a great place to go to. But even then, like you're going to be spending a very big penny when it comes to that, which is why most military members who are stationed at Coronado choose to live in the city and onward inside the county. Now, we talked about kind of, Coronado's unique in itself. There's only two entrance and exits to the island, and it's really important to note that if there's a holidays or there's an event going on, like there's 5K runs that happen on Coronado. Like, look, it can get crowded when it comes to coming and going. So that's one downfall of living there is if you tend to leave often, it can be a pain in the butt, especially when it's not just for work. But also, if there's an accident on the bridge or like literally the smallest thing can derail you when it comes to your drive time getting on the island. So that's one unfortunate thing when it comes to Coronado is kind of that there's really only two ways to get on or off. Now, the first thing I think a lot of military members run into when it comes to living in Coronado is like, do you live on base or off base? Because obviously, if you're like, well, Cameron, obviously the drive time is so terrible, like maybe I should just live on base. I don't know if I intend to live in San Diego forever, and maybe that's what I want to do. You can do that. Obviously, if you don't know, you most likely, I'm assuming you do, but also you lose all your BAH when it comes to living on base housing. But the base housing for the area is in Lincoln Heights, which is not on Coronado. So even if you choose to live in base housing, you're not necessarily going to be close to Coronado. Now, obviously, it depends on your rank and officer housing, things like that. But if you're just enlisted, like you're definitely not going to be on Coronado. So that you're still going to be having to go off base. So the next thing is like, should you live on base housing? Should you not? Well, obviously, if you don't know, San Diego is an expensive city. But if you're on 4-year plus orders and you know that's the time you're going to be here, then buying real estate can work out for you. It most likely, I'm going to tell you, it's probably going to be a better financial decision. I'm not here to tell you like, oh, it's going to be cheaper. It could be, and there are ways to get around that. As veterans, I help every single day kind of not spend their whole BAH on freaking mortgage. But for most, you're going to be spending all your BH, no matter what, when it comes to housing in San Diego. I don't care if it's rent, purchase, or living on base housing. Like, it just is what it is. Now, there are ways to get around that. There are ways to cut that and kind of skirt the system. But I'm going to tell you, most veterans aren't willing to do what it needs to take to get there because it sucks. Like, you're renting rooms, maybe you're buying a multifamily property, things like that. So that's not the point of this video. But understand that it's going to be expensive to live here. Now, BH has gone up in 2023, which is awesome because it was well undeserved for a long time. With the way inflation was just rising and rising and rising, military members were not getting enough. So it's better than it was. But as we all know, the military is the military, and it's never a perfect scenario. Like, you're always going to be dipping into your regular paycheck when it comes to housing. It just is what it is. So that's why a lot of people do choose to try and purchase something in San Diego, because at least you're building equity. And when it comes time to PCS again, whether you're changing stations or you're heading back home and you're getting out, San Diego is one of those cities where you do build equity heavily. Or you do have the option to rent out the home when you leave, but at the very least, when you go to sell that piece of real estate, like, even if the market goes up or down, like, it just works out more often than not with the right purchase. So those are the options when it comes to weighing it. It's like, you're gonna be spending, especially if you want a single family house, like, you're gonna be spending $3,000 to $4,000 more on rent per month. And the same can be said for owning a mortgage, especially with today's current rates and things like that. So it's a tough decision and one that you have to make. And like I said, you can always reach out to me, and I'm happy to have that conversation. We can really build out a model. No strings attached, just like, hey, here's like your financial options, one way or the other. And even if you got like bad credit, like, Cameron, I can't afford nothing, look, hey, reach out. Like, we can either help you build the credit, or we can help you on the team, like, create that plan. Maybe you're buying something. Hey, it doesn't even have to be something in state. My first piece of real estate when I was stationed in San Diego wasn't even in the state. I bought a rental property over in Arizona. So, like, I'm not telling you have to buy something in San Diego, but the cool thing about being a veteran is you do have options, especially when you're getting that big BAH check in San Diego. So cost of living obviously is not cheap. Like, you're going to be catching obviously the gas prices and food prices, depending where you're coming from. I think most stations in the Navy, they tend to be coming from like Norfolk and things like that lately. And obviously it's more expensive in those areas. So it's something you have to get used to when it comes to, getting PCS to San Diego. So the next important thing is obviously kind of going off of the cost of living is so the average home price in San Diego still sits around $750,000. Now, does that mean that's how much you're going to spend on a single family house? Absolutely not. Like, you can find houses cheaper than $750,000. That's not what that means. But it kind of gives you an idea of like how expensive rents are as well, because if that's the home price, rents are at least like around $3,500 plus for a single family home. And even then, like, that's probably like a 2-bed house. Like, if you're looking for like a nice community and a nice rent, you're gonna be spending over $4,000 a month easy. Now, obviously condos and townhomes are different. Those prices are definitely gonna be a lot lower, but you're still gonna be in, especially if you're trying to get close to either 32nd Street or Coronado, you're gonna be spending probably, for a nice condo, if you're looking to be super close to base, over $500,000. But and obviously, as you go farther in the county, you do have the option to spend less than that. What I tell people is, what kills you being on Coronado and like even 32nd Street, like that whole area around San Diego Bay, even Coronado, is the drive time, right? So I mentioned the issues with the bridge. Imagine having those potential issues. But even if you live in like the Lakeside or El Cajon or Spring Valley, like, you're still looking at probably like a 40-minute drive to work, with traffic and everything. It could be worse if there's an accident and things like that. So you have to understand that where you choose to live isn't just budget based. It's also trying to figure out like what drive time are you willing to do. I've met veterans who go all the way to Temecula because let's say your budget's $600,000. Well, down here, you might be fighting for the scraps of single family homes. But up in Temecula, you have a little more options to get a 2-bed home, maybe a 3-bed if it's Marietta, and getting that option to have the bigger house. The downfall is you're gonna be spending like almost 2 hours to and from work every day. It doesn't mean it's gonna be that long, but that's the unfortunate thing about San Diego is that traffic is terrible. So you really have to be smart about where you live because it can either make or break you. And I'm telling you, there's nothing like, especially being the service member, where you get done with work at like 5 to 7, depending if you're working like a regular shift or 12 on, 12 off. And now you get to tell your spouse like, oh, hey, by the way, I'll be home in an hour and a half looking at traffic. It's terrible. It sucks. And it's one of those things you just have to deal with. And there are ways to get around it. Like, there are carpool lanes depending on what freeway you're taking, and you can kind of like get veterans together and carpool. But in the end, you're still having to deal with that. So you have to make sure that you're choosing the right area, because that's really going to hurt you. All right, so I decided, here is the map. So we're going to talk about some different areas for you to consider when it comes to being on Coronado. We talked about some of the ideas, things to consider, like cost of living, drive time, things like that. But now I want to get into the nitty gritty and kind of show you different areas that you can consider when it comes to being stationed in Coronado. Now, I will tell you, not all these areas are for every single budget. So the biggest point of this is kind of giving you an idea of where these cities are located and the general vibe that you can expect when it comes to looking at them, and where I've seen a lot of my clients choose to live based on like their needs and drive time and things like that. So as you know, here we have Coronado. There it is, the island. As you can see, there's only 2 ways on and off this island. Now, I've seen a lot of veterans, especially those that are coming from like Navy SEAL school and things like that, they buy homes in Imperial Beach. Imperial Beach definitely has a lot of good and bad areas, but overall, I've seen, like, if you're like an officer and you have that budget, Imperial Beach can be a place where people have chosen to live. I've even seen Navy SEAL officers and like other officers in the Navy who have purchased homes there, and they've decided to rent out all the rooms, because there are a lot of schools in Coronado, and when officers come and go, they need a place to stay, and it's really easy and convenient to rent out rooms. So if that's you and you're looking for something like that, Imperial Beach can be the place. Now, from the Imperial Beach, we head over and you have San Ysidro. So San Ysidro, it's right on the border of Mexico, and people give it a bad rap sometimes. So I can tell you, in the last couple of years, I've really seen it kind of turn around, and you can find a lot of, if you have a tighter budget, San Ysidro can be a place for you to consider. Like, I don't care if you're looking at a multifamily home, but if you're looking at even single family or condos and townhomes, like, you can find good communities here that really give you the option to kind of express your budget a little bit more. And I've even seen some homes recently in the last couple of months in San Ysidro that give you a good view of of Mexico and the hills and stuff like that across the border. And it's awesome, because you kind of get, like, you feel like you're in San Diego, but you kind of get a break from the hustle and bustle that is in San Ysidro. And overall, your drive time is about the same as it would be heading east in the county. So overall, I think it's a place for most to consider when it comes to being stationed in Coronado, and a place that you really should consider if, like, that's your budget and it's a little strained, things like that. But even if it's not strained, you can still find really good communities there. Now, heading up for San Ysidro, you have Chula Vista. Chula Vista, a lot of people tend to look at, because you tend to find Chula Vista and National City, you tend to find cheaper homes. And like, I always have clients who are pulling up Chula Vista and National City, like, oh, Cameron, look at this one, look at this one. The caveat I have with Chula Vista and National City is, like, you really have to be community specific about where it's located. And I always implore everyone to look at public crime data, because, look, it might be cheaper, and you have to be able to physically drive to these locations, like, without a doubt. Because when you go to National City and Chula Vista, it's really easy to go from, you know what, this isn't too bad, I can see myself living here, to holy crap, like, I don't even want to leave my house during the daytime. It sounds excessive, but this is where you start to hit, obviously, cheaper communities. Unfortunate as it is, but you tend to also find crime areas as well, or areas that maybe just you don't find a good fit, especially if you have kids, like I have kids. Like, this might not be the best area for you. So you really need to make sure that you get an idea, like, hey, I'm close to base, but a lot of the homes here also tend to need a lot more work. So they might not be in the best condition. The communities might have no garage if it's a condo or townhome. Like, you really got to make sure you understand what you're getting into. Because these communities, the real estate you find might not be the best area, or even though you're saving on money, it might need a lot of work when it comes to getting into it, if it even can qualify for a loan. I mean, I've been telling you, I've been catfished on properties here this last 6 months, where you go there and even the agents themselves, like my fellow compatriots, are just like, you get there and you're like, wow, you just lied about everything. Like, why is half the house like just gutted? Like, I can't get a loan on this. And unfortunately, it's really common in these areas. Now, it doesn't mean it's something you can't live. There are absolutely good opportunities here. You just have to understand, like I said, when you're getting into, you really have to be aware of where you're getting into, especially if you've never been in San Diego and you've never driven to these areas. So moving up from there, when it comes to right across, the bay from Coronado, you have main city San Diego. And this is where you're going to have your North Parks, your Hillcrest, your Lincoln Park, Logan Heights. Logan Heights is obviously where military housing is located for 32nd Street in Coronado. But what I will tell you is, if you're not looking at base housing, it's sparse when it comes to purchasing real estate here. So if you're away from renting, you have to understand there are opportunities here, but they're going to be higher priced. And if you do find a good priced condo or something like that, you have to make sure it's VA approved, which it may not be, which is okay, because I do have connections to get that done. But Like a lot of condos, like they don't have any parking. So like you'll buy a condo and you're gonna be trying to find parking on the street every day, which sounds miserable. But yes, you can find places here that are within even a reasonable budget, but understand you're probably gonna be giving up a lot. Now, North Park, all these areas like the Gas Lamp, like I've seen veterans who have rented amazing places. Like I've seen like bars, you rent places above the bars and Gas Lamp and things like that. And some awesome opportunities if you just look at me near the party scene. But understand that it's going to come with a cost. Like the rents are going to be substantially higher. So you might want to look at maybe getting a 2-bed apartment and then splitting the cost with another veteran or whatever you need to do to kind of make it work. You can get amazing living in San Diego, even on a military budget. Regardless of what rank you are, you just have to understand that you might have to join together with other veterans to make that happen. Now, if you have family, most likely you're going to be looking for your own independent place. And if you're a service member and you're the only source of income, it can be a little difficult in these areas because the prices are going to be higher because you're in central San Diego. It's just going to happen. But if you want to be near a ton of amenities, you want the full city experience, like you're not living in San Diego and you're like, I just want to rent or I want to live somewhere and get the full experience of being in California and San Diego, this is kind of the place if you want to get that city vibe. Like you just need to find a place and you understand that it might take you a little bit to find somewhere because, it's either going to be you're looking for like somewhere that's in a heavy crime area or it's going to be in a nice area and you kind of have to make that budget work. So a lot of things are going on here, but this is obviously, this is the area, North Park. This is San Diego. When people talk about San Diego, this is San Diego. The airport's right here, Liberty Station, Ocean Beach. This is the communities that people try and get into. And you have to make sure that you have the budget for it, but also if you don't have the budget for it, is there a way that you can increase your budget to get into those areas? Because that is San Diego. So when people think of San Diego, that is it. Now, back to normal people who are looking to kind of, they're stationed in San Diego. They're like, Cameron, like me, when I got out here, like I don't have a choice. Like I got told I had to come here. So I just want to maximize my budget. I want to try and put more money in my pocket like we all want. And I want to make sure I live in an area that's nice. The drive time isn't as terrible and things like that. So lately, a lot of my veterans, they choose when it comes to that, and they're like, I want to kind of get a little bit better with my budget. They look to Spring Valley, La Mesa, El Cajon, and in these areas, you're going to find a lot of condos and townhomes that are more within budget for most veterans. You're also going to find single-family homes that are more upkept. They're move-in ready. They've been flipped and things like that, and they may not even have an HOA if that's something you're against, which I know I am. So these are the areas that are really going to be on your ticket. Now, obviously, it can still be, I will tell you that, if you're looking for a single family home, you're looking between 600 at the very best. And even then you're going to be competing hardcore for those homes. But if you're going to be looking for, if you want a single family home in these areas, you're going to be looking for at least a budget of 650 to 700 to really make sure that you have a good scope to be able to get into a home with probably the least amount of competition possible for those budgets. Obviously, you can get into a home for 600, but in the recent months, it has become very competitive. So if you're in a situation where you need closing costs, you need help when it comes to getting into the home, it might not be an option for you. But if you're looking for nice condos and townhomes, this is absolutely an area you can consider because this area all through here is going to have plenty of opportunities where they're well kept, they're well maintained. You can get 2 bedrooms plus. Like you can actually get into you can probably get at least 1-car garage, or I've even seen communities where they have 2 parking spots and a garage, right? So the opportunities are definitely there. So those are the most common areas when it comes to people who are stationed on Coronado that I've had with clients that they just end up choosing to live, and they tend to be the best drive time. Now I'm going to kind of go into every place that you could potentially live in San Diego on like every military budget that people definitely drive to because of the cost or the availability of real estate. So Lakeside is a community where it's going to be farther out there. And by the way, all these communities I'm talking about now are going to be probably at least 45-minute drive times plus. So be aware of that if you're looking for a reasonable drive time, you are now pushing outside of that envelope. And if that's okay with you, then hey, have at it. So Lakeside, great community. You can definitely get single family homes here that are way more in your budget. It kind of gives you the opportunity, if you do have a budget and you're willing to have a long drive time and you're willing to you want a little bit more space with your single family homes and you have the budget, you can look at Hamul and Alpine. I will tell you though, real estate is definitely, even single family homes are going to be well more priced because they have land and they're going to be expensive. So if you don't have the high budget, then be aware that these probably are the areas you should not consider. But even then, the drive times will be terrible, but you will get home with some acreage. So if you're an officer or even a high-ranking officer and you want some space for your family, you want chickens. I love chickens. You want stuff like that, even in San Diego. And hey, these are the places you could look at if you're willing to push that budget. Obviously, you're looking to stay in the city. You want to stay, Lakeside is still reasonable, I think, but it does get a little farther out there for drive time. Santee as well. You can find single family homes in there that are better priced. And then heading north, obviously, so If you don't know about San Diego, beachfront, everyone wants to live in beachfront, but Carlsbad all the way down to Del Mar, like you're looking at least 800,000 plus for single family homes, and even condos and townhomes are gonna be in the 600s more often than not, or maybe you get lucky with a high 5, but you're probably looking at 6s. So understand that these communities are great. You can definitely find rentals there. I've seen, veterans who are maybe higher ranking who have joined together. They got in a 3 to 4 bedroom place. They all rent individual rooms because they want to get that full San Diego experience, and they want to be in a position to where they can like maximize like their living here in San Diego. And that's great, but understand that obviously if you're just on a modest budget, like it's going to be expensive. They're great communities. All of them are awesome, but it's going to come at a price. Now, you can find a lot of rentals in Mira Mesa and things like that, but the rents tend to be substantially high. Same with Poway. And a lot of veterans start looking at North County, closer to like Camp Pendleton, things like that. But I will tell you, like your drive time is going to be insane. So like if you're not willing to go drive time, like it gets really bad. Whether you're taking the 5 or the 15, like during work hours coming to or from work, you're going to be stuck in traffic immensely. I'm telling you, there are going to be days where you're looking at 2.5 hours to get home for living at like peak work traffic. It's terrible. But the communities up here are great. Oceanside tends to be the most affordable oceanfront properties in San Diego. So if you're looking for something like that to get a single family home or a condo townhome close to the beach, most likely if you're on a modest budget, that is the place to look at. But reminder that you're going to be coming with a drive time. So it's going to suck. It's going to have to come with that terrible drive time. San Marcos, great schools, great community. Single family homes are insanely expensive. Like you're spending over $700,000 for a house in San Marcos, easy. Escondido, that can be a little bit cheaper than that, but again, you're gonna be spending. North County is just expensive. A lot of people love it. You can find great schools up here, but it is gonna be coming with a price. Now, I have lived in Bonsall as well. Bonsall, it's great, but it is a fire zone. That brings up a point. Remember, when you are in California now, when you leave these city areas, you are prone to the risk of getting wildfires and being caught in them. So understand that when you choose to live outside these areas, that is a risk you're coming with. Now, I'll tell you, I brought this up before, a lot of veterans love to live in Marietta and Temecula. The reason for that is their budget. If your budget down in San Diego is $600 and you're barely getting into a condo in certain areas, you can potentially get into a home, like at least a 2-bed, single-level home in Temecula and Marietta. So understand that that's why a lot of veterans choose to go this far, but you will be looking at like a 2.5-hour drive to and from work every day. So understand that you can come up here. There are amazing communities. Like I love it more than San Diego most often than not, but understand that you are going to be coming with the price of that drive time. So be aware that is something you need to consider when it comes to moving to San Diego. So that's about everything when it comes to where do you live when it comes to Coronado. Again, it comes down to your budget, the crime rate areas you're trying to live in, how much do you want your drive time to be, do you want to live on base, off base, all this plays into it. And really, it's a tough decision just to be done in this video. So if you are looking to make that decision, you need that help, you need that plan to kind of weigh your options from someone who has done it. I've made your move before with family, with kids. I get it, it's tough. It's never popping up below. So how you can get a hold of me, you can call, text, email, or even schedule a Zoom call down below. I don't care what it is. Like I'm here to help you create that plan because it's not just about getting to San Diego. It's not just about getting you into a home. It's about making sure you make a decision that not only benefits you for the short term, but also when you go to leave the San Diego or PCS or whatever happens at the end of your term here, that you have more money than when you left. And I think that's an issue I have with so many veterans is they get here, San Diego is expensive, and they fall into the rabbit hole and then they end up being worse off than when they left. While it's great, it's beautiful here, like the weather's amazing, like it's just an expensive city. So if you don't plan the right way and make the right decisions, like you either are going to be spending a lot more money than you should be, or you're going to be saving money, but you're going to be hating your life because your spouse never sees you because you're traveling like hours and hours and hours to work. And like on top of working crazy hours in the military, now you're losing more hours at home. So reach out to me. I'm happy to have that conversation. Doesn't matter when you reach out. I'm here to work for you. I understand you're in the military. You work crazy hours. Well, I am able to adjust to those hours as well. So hope you have value in this video. Look forward to seeing you in the next one.